Nothing has ever been as awe-inspiring, as magnificent and encapsulating as what I'm about to talk about today. That represents the fundamentals of our own reality, life and death, dark and light, yin and yang, working together as one. I'm getting too ahead of myself right now. Let's start with the basics. Peculiar Bloom is a mod that a lot of people overlook, think it's a joke, and that it's only a little gimmick. But I see past the surface layer, and what I'm going to reveal to you today is going to be very surprising. And when people look at its effect, they think it's worthless. But like I said, that's only the surface layer. Critical hits cause flowers to grow from the wounds. So what does all that mean? At first it might just seem like some basic gimmick. Oh, flowers. It's not as significant, right? Well, think again. What does a flower represent? And what is it? It's a fragile, beautiful being that's also a living organism. Life, in its most simplest form. And the very idea that bullets can cause life is mystifying to me. For years we've tried to understand the fundamentals of life. What creates the conscious mind? We already know that it's a biological fusion of different bacteria, taking years and years to grow. But we've tried to shorten that process in an attempt to evolve the human race. But we've taken one thing for granted. We've all had the ability to create life, but not instantaneously. The idea that life can be created from nothing is a mystifying concept in itself, but one that's out of our own reality. As this mod implies, a sacrifice must be made, and that is the singular bullet that will cause the critical hit necessary for life to blossom. It puts us back in our own reality, realizing that the struggle to understand the creation of life is meaningless, and that there will be no way that we can replicate the biological magnificence that goes on when the sperm meets the egg. But keep in mind that the bullet that's sacrificed, that represents the seed being life, blossoming from the ground. And it's an allegory for the circle of life, because you cannot have life without death. And it's also an allegory on how when a person dies, it will never be the end, for them at least. Their conscious minds may have faded from their physical forms, but what blossoms are memories, legacies. Death is never truly the end of a human life. The people around them, the people who are inspired by them, will carry on that legacy for years to come. But what also represents life can also represent death in itself. And like I said, the flowers are frail, beautiful beings, much like the children who are born into this world. Pure, frail. And it's a representation of how easily life can be taken away from oneself. How no one's immortal, how no one's invincible, and that our constant search for immortality may lead to our own demise. But that's not it. I've given you enough evidence thus far as to why this is deeper than you initially thought, and why it's one of the most powerful mods in existence, but there's a lot more. Going back to what I said about us having the ability to conceive life, Peculiar Bloom encapsulates that in its rarity, the peculiar rarity. And these type of mods are seen as lesser than all the other mods in this game, even the most common ones. Which brings to question, is the ability to create life itself as godlike and magnificent as we hope it to be? Because think about it, when everyone has the same ability, it doesn't become special. It loses all significance, all uniqueness it has, and this encapsulates that even more. By viewing the ability to create life as lesser than anything else because it's so insignificant to the bigger picture. And that even though this mod may not have too much value, it has value in those who give it value, as evident as to how annoying it is to acquire. But the peculiar mods also visually look like a veil of smoke, which could represent a facade, an illusion that the ability to instantaneously create life is nothing but a fantasy, an illusion, and that these beings that we know who have created life within the snap of their finger are all nothing but smoke. Conceptualized in someone else's own reality. The scarcity of this mod also represents how we fail to realize our own gifts, how we fail to realize what's in the front of us. Our constant struggle to find more has left us in a state of dissatisfaction with our own gifts. We as a human race want to refine everything, want to make everything more efficient, and that includes creating life. The amount of genetic experiments that I've been doing nowadays is even more evident towards that. But our own gifts, the gifts that we were given, that is right in front of us, has been taken advantage of for years and years. People don't want to face the truth that we're not necessarily on here for a reason. We make our own reasons. We want to chase this idea of becoming gods. We fantasize about perfect beings and becoming flawless. But in the pursuit of that deception, the veil of smoke, we forgot who we truly are inside. Living organisms who shouldn't let our origins define us, who shouldn't let what we see to be greater beings in the sky define us. It is our actions, our ideals, our mind that defines us. And we've become so disconnected to our biological form. The singularity is upon us in the pursuit of more power, while simultaneously creating artificial life that we govern as lesser to us. But if we look closely at the name, Peculiar Bloom, and in this sense, peculiar, different to what is normal or expected, strange. So is the idea of the conventional human form strange now? Well, it is. Times have changed. Science is becoming more integrated with human society. Things are becoming less and less natural. We are straying away from what made us us. Because remember, we were all primal beings not too long ago, in caves hunting for food to keep us alive. We've lost touch with our humanity, and now we see that as unconventional. Peculiar, in fact. And that is the hidden meaning behind Peculiar Bloom.